and they're, like I said, a kind of the missing link factor, all the links in the chain until you get to your iPhone. Now, if you were here 100 years ago, what you would be using is not this giant film projector and all that. You would be using a magic lantern. So this is an original, nearly 100-year-old magic lantern, and this is what you would be doing for projection. It's basically a projector, and it would use an oil lamp. So there would be a guy there with a magic lantern and an oil lamp, and then you would use glass slides. And often the glass slides would have text underneath them, so you guys would read the text and they would tell the story about taxidermy. Or you would move it quickly. Sometimes they would have some animation. Later magic lanterns had film in them. Thomas Edison had catalogs full of magic lantern presentations because these were the first, you ready for it? PowerPoint. And it really was. Magic lantern presentations were the sensation. There were thousands and thousands of them, and they go back hundreds of years. And initially, films would be silent. This film would be silent, but they would have one of these devices here. This is an original Thomas Edison cylinder record player, invented 1877. This is from the 1800s, 1890s. So the film would be soundtracked using this. This is going to play music. And these machines actually can record as well. So Ada Jones and her whole orchestra would be in this room singing into the horn, and it would record like a sewing machine up and down onto the wax. And my machine does have the recording needle. I can actually make records, and I've done it. It's very magical sounding. And it's not voodoo at all. It's just like me talking to you, my mouth, my tongue makes sound waves that hit your eardrum. So instead of hitting your eardrum, you could hit tin, Play-Doh, not Play-Doh, he was a big Greek guy, or wax, beeswax. So the next item I want to show you guys is, these are stereoscopes. These are 3D from the 1880s, and 3D actually goes back further than that. Photography began around 1839, and as soon as they started doing photography, they realized you have two eyes. You're seeing two images of me, and your brain puts it together. That's what this does. A camera had two lenses, just like your two eyes, would take two pictures, one a little from the right, one a little from the left, and then your brain would put it together. This is a stereoscope. I'm going to let you guys pass it around a little bit. Won't be easy because you're all over the place. But here, I'm going to put that over to you, and then you can pass it around, and at the end I'll pick it up from you. And that stereoscope is the Rocky Mountains Taxidermy Museum. So you're going to be watching this movie about taxidermy. This gives you an idea of how they displayed it. Very, very lifelike, very beautiful, and that's actually a really nice image of it. So I picked up for you also, and in the lobby you can take a look a little closer. This is the taxidermy school in Omaha, Nebraska. These are the original lessons. I have the full lesson plan in the lobby. It's from 1930, these booklets. So it gives you an idea how to do taxidermy, which actually is a lot easier than you think. People think it's so complicated. And we'll go through it kind of a little bit quickly over here. So initially, of course, you want to kill the animal in a way that it's not damaged. So often they'll put a bullet hole in a place that won't be too damaged. Sometimes people will find an animal, or an animal will pass away. Taxidermy goes back thousands of years. It began in ancient Egypt initially, but the word actually comes from Greek. So taxidermy. Dermy, you figure, means like dermatology, skin. Taxi means arrangement, some sort of arrangement. So you're arranging the skin, or what you would know as, or what they call skin art. You're making art out of the skin. The Egyptians, this was big industry. We are in New York, in Times Square, you buy those trinkets that say, I love New York, the t-shirts. When you went to Egypt thousands of years ago, around 2200 BC, you would pick up a taxidermy cat. And that was like, I went to Egypt. That was your trinket. And it was such big industry that they literally had like farms of cats and dogs. that they would just basically raise so that they could make them mummies, so that they can do them to mummify them, which is kind of early taxidermy, but not exactly taxidermy. Nowadays, taxidermy is much more, they put them in all these interesting poses and all that. Back then, it was really mummifying and keeping it, and often they would also put them in the tombs. That was a big thing. In fact, there's a story about hippo that they mummified and put inside a tomb. So that was big business then, either to put your cat inside your tomb so that you could be with your cat forever, or, like I said, trinkets and stuff like that. And they taxidermied almost everything you could think of. Then later on in the 1800s, you have them doing more proper taxidermy. And the first thing you do after you kill the animal is you want to skin it. So these are antique knives. This one is a double-edged one. This is a single-edged, and you can find this design today. They still have a lot of these. And basically this is for skinning the animal. And after you skin the animal, you have all these little tools that you would use. In the beginning they would use regular surgical tools. But later on there are tools that are made specifically for taxidermy, because you want to get all the fat off of the skin, because that would get all yucky and smelly and all that kind of stuff, and you would have other bugs in it and stuff kind of attack your animal. So first of all, you want to clean it. Believe it or not, then you wash it in like hot water so that it's a little more clean. And then in the 1800s they used arsenic on it so that insects wouldn't end up eating your taxidermied piece. Later on they realized arsenic wasn't such a great idea, and sometimes they'll use borax these days, but whatever you need to put in there so that it won't eat it. And then, like I said, you're skinning the animal. You're literally pulling the skin off of the animal. It's very, very, it's not as hard as you think. And then you're putting it inside. In the early days they would use like sawdust or rags as your mold. So there's no actual animal inside here. There'd be a mannequin these days, or there would be sawdust, or there would be rags, or something like that. The only animal going on here is the skin. Now you could have, there's a squirrel in the lobby, you'll see the squirrel. I always thought, with feathers, how do you deal with that? It's still skin. You've got, instead of fur, you've got feathers. But either way, it's skin, and you're going to do the same process of skinning the animal, where you cut it open, and then open it up, and then clean it up, and then literally mold it back on to something else that'll last forever, like a mannequin. Let's see what else I have over here. You'll see some of the other devices over there that you can touch. This is for embalming. Some of you asked about this one. So this would take out the fluids, and then you would lock this side. It's got 2 needles, and then this would put the fluids in, the embalming fluid in. And then, of course, we should end with an actual item that was taxidermied. This is a pheasant, and he's from around the 1970s. Beautiful, right? The eyes would be plastic. The most important thing is the eyes, because the first thing you notice you looked at were the eyes. You don't look at the feathers, you don't look at it. Everything else you can get wrong. You don't want to get them wrong, but if you got everything else wrong but you got the eyes right and the head right, pretty much people would be okay until they started seeing all the imperfections. But that's the first thing you go for. So the eyes would be, plastic or glass, but that would be the most important thing, and you really want to set them just right. Isn't that beautiful? I love this one a little bit more than most of my other items, because it's from 1970s. I just got it randomly, but it actually has my name on it. It says Denny, which is my name, Denny's First Pheasant, right on it.
Oh, wow.
And I only found that out today, funny enough. I didn't realize it said that because I wasn't wearing my glasses. And the pheasant, it says in big letters. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. It says my name. So it's perfect for me. And like I said, afterwards, come into the lobby, take a look at some of the other items, thumb through things. You're allowed to touch everything, but this one I'll play for you. And of course, we do a speakeasy once a month also, right here on Prince Street, so you're welcome to come to that, where we show 16mm films, which actually they are capable of showing here also, 16 and 35. at Film Forum. When I was a little kid, I used to cut school just to go to this place. Don't tell my mom. So that is my presentation.
Thank you.